Welcome to Bridge to Local with Affinity Group, the podcast that connects manufacturers to local operators. With deep industry experience and a proven track record of successful partnerships, Affinity Group is your bridge to driving growth and seizing opportunities in food service. Let's build success together, one connection at a time.
Hello everyone, I'm Alex Culin, your host for this episode of Bridge to Local. Today we're going to talk about feeding our future with all things K12. Let's face it, more than any other food service segment, K12 can be a complicated one to navigate with 79% of districts participating in the National School Lunch Program, constantly trying to keep up with federal rules, regulations, and rising food costs. To unpack this today, I have an amazing panel of participants. There's so much to talk about, so let's get right to it. Building that bridge to local. Joined by three distinguished members of the K12 community. I'll turn it over to Jodi Batten to introduce herself.
Good morning, Alex. My name is Jodi Batten. I'm with Red Gold. I'm the National Sales and Marketing Director for our non-commercial segment. And I've been in the K-12 space for about 26 years and food service for 42.
And next up, we have Megan Flynn with Gaia.
Thank you for having me. I'm Megan Flynn, Director of Partnerships with Gaia K-12 Software. And I've been in K-12 since 2013.
Finally, we have Benita Gingerella with FoodService Director.
Hi, Alex. Good morning. Yes, my name is Benita Gingerella, and I'm the Senior Editor at FoodService Director, and I have been with the publication since 2016.
I'm curious, outside of the plant-based, if there's any others that you all can think of that are, real big emerging trends.
I think, it's a little scary trend. I think declining participation, cost and labor. When you listen to a group of operators talk, which I recently did, I love listening to all of our K-12 partners just talk about what their challenges are because, again, as a partner, how can we do something to help? But this declining participation, we know birth rates are gradually declining. Their costs are going up. Labor's hard to find. It's kind of like the perfect storm, I think, for operators, at least from that perspective. Not to mention, like some of the things, all these changing flavors and all those products cost more, right? So I'm very concerned about that as a trend, in looking at, what are schools, going to do to increase, participation.
Yeah, so let's talk about participation because it is something that is a huge topic. What's driving some of the gains and losses? I'm curious, what if we can anticipate upcoming participation issues or if we feel like maybe things are on the growth pattern now, or if we'll still continue to see any declines. I'm interested to hear, Benita, if you have any particular comments on that.
Well, so it's interesting. I think the reason why we're seeing these going down, and this is, kind of just my personal opinion, is we had those child nutrition waivers that the USDA issued during the pandemic, and that allowed all schools across the country to feed all students for free. And so we saw participation go up. Those child nutrition waivers have now expired. And so now we have this kind of weird coordination where some states have passed universal free school meal legislation. And in those states, participation has still continued to go up, especially in like Minnesota and Michigan. If schools weren't offering universal free school meals before and now they are, they're seeing the participation go up. But then you have schools who had been serving universal free school meals during the pandemic and no longer are. And now their participation is going down. So it's kind of a weird, it's different depending on what your state's laws are. And now we're seeing, additional states are trying to pass legislation. Who knows if that will actually ever come of anything. But so it is, again, it's just a weird time right now where we're still kind of recovering from the pandemic. We don't really know, there's not as much stability, I guess, is what I would
When I wonder,
say.
too, how much charter schools and homeschooling, this move after COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much has
Right.
that really impacted?
Right.
Online, move to online.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's still students, I think, that they still haven't even accounted for, right? They can't find or whatnot. So yeah, I'm sure that's also playing a role.
We see a lot of articles on, this push for universal free meals. And I'm curious, Jodi, do you ever see us in a position where nationally will have universal free school meals?
I sure hope so. I think it just makes sense. It's been a long time coming. The scary part, though, is, with states doing it on their own, there's less of an impetus for the federal government to do it, right? Maybe that's okay. Maybe 50 states will do it and we'll get free meals, right? I don't care how we get it. But I do think, particularly as we're looking at nutrition standards and, wanting kids to eat healthy, they're going to have to, step up to the plate for reimbursement, and, just to ensure, parity. So I do hope. I hope before I get out of K12, we do have free meals for all.
Yeah, and in Minnesota, we gained 1 million additional school lunches and breakfasts going from before to after universal free meals in that school year change. So it's really significant.
Wow. Well, if we can provide free books and free buses, it's been the argument for a long time. It just seems to be the next step.
So rising food costs are a major issue for schools. How are you helping operators maintain meal quality without exceeding budgets?
Well, I can just share kind of what I've heard from operators. And unfortunately, there's not an easy solution for this. And as you mentioned, it's like one of the most major challenges that school nutrition operators are facing today. But I know for the schools that are able to kind of implement a little bit more tech, they're starting to get more into these menu planning softwares that can really pinpoint, okay, this is how much this dish costs. These are the dishes that students are really enjoying, and they're kind of using that more now to build out their menus, just to help again with those cost efficiencies and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. I would, and this is also answers the trend question as well. There's definitely a need for more technology and bringing K12 up to world-class technology that other industries already have and benefit from. So that's a big reason I joined Gaia, is because they really want to bring efficiency and cost savings and make this a super hard operator job a little bit easier. So they're using AI to take pictures of production records so you don't have to do data entry and calculations. And it's just like banking can take a picture of a check and deposit it. So we're doing that quickly. And then it uses historical data to give you a smart forecast. So you're saving time on the back and front end. And I'm really excited about time saving and efficiencies coming for operators.
Yeah, and I've heard, just again, listening to operators talk, one way that they have saved money is by really having tighter menu cycles and less items, and just sort of running it more like a restaurant.
Yes.
So, it used to be maybe a 3-week menu cycle going down to a 2-week. I even know some schools running a 1-week menu cycle. So from a manufacturer perspective, that really makes it difficult, because if they're really sort of moving in that direction, it's less opportunity to get, new products in. But from a cost perspective, I think it's the best way to manage your costs.
This one is a little bit more of a challenging question to answer, but how are schools ensuring menus reflect the cultural diversity of their student population?
Well, I don't have a specific example per se, but I think this goes again back to what we were talking about earlier, where school nutrition operators need to get in front of parents and students and ask them and say, what are you guys enjoying at home? How can we work together? And this is a great opportunity to explain the regulations and say, okay, well, I can't maybe do this, but I can do this. So where can we meet in the middle to make this work for both of us? And I think too, some directors themselves may be of a cultural background that they wish to include, their food that they enjoy eating at home on the menu. They may have staff who are from another cultural background. That's another way, talk to them, ask them. And then I'm sure that would also help with morale back in the back of house. If a staff member, can have a part in what is being served on the menu that day.
Yeah, I think investing time in those student advisory committees, having staff bring in recipes, doing testing, taste tests, it really will pay off. And when a student sees their culture reflected on the menu or on the line that day, it's just a super cool experience for kids. I've also seen more like spice kits, like Flavor Temptations has these Indian spice kits. I would love to see them collaborate with manufacturers and create new products. But yeah, they try to make it as easy as possible to incorporate new flavors.
Do you feel like there's anything on the industry side that we're failing on when it comes to culture and diversity and how we can be better partners with our directors and districts on this particular topic?
Well, I think, everybody's kind of talking around this, but the more you can take maybe one product, and like Megan said, get a spice kit, because then we just were talking about labor and costs and menus. So I think as industry, if we could look at how could this product be this, how could you make it in a Mediterranean style? We just launched a new plant-based protein pasta sauce, and we're actually experimenting with that. We can put taco seasoning in it and turn it into, we can make it into chili. We can make, and again, talking, do we have to really say it's plant-based? We can just say it's a meatless meat sauce, and it works for everybody. So, something, I think how can we make our products, so that they can cross over some of those cultural, and, menu preference lines.
And used multiple ways
Yeah.
throughout the menu. Exactly.
So I'm curious to get everyone's thoughts on how schools can balance being compliant with the National School Lunch Program and serve meals the kids want to eat, because it's a very delicate balance that we need to navigate.
Right, I said it once, I'll say it again. You need to communicate. You need to talk to students. Even schools who have culinary programs, I know obviously that is not something that every school has, but if you do, maybe partner with them, have them come in and learn how, to make a reimbursable meal. And then if you get one student advocate, then, others are sure to follow. But I think you do need to take the time to, again, educate, because and as well, and then I think is too, you should try to, again, if you can, have students be a little bit more involved again with the menu. So even if it's like have them come in and look at the kitchen and see the back of house and see, oh, this is where everything is made and whatnot. I think that will also, help out with students kind of just understanding, again, okay, this is what goes into my school lunch every single day.
Well, I think manufacturers can contribute by, doing some homework, right? We know what makes a compliant meal. If we can plug all of our stuff into software that'll kind of spit out a meal, we could actually take it to the next level. We could do some focus groups. We could partner with a school district and say, hey, we've come up with these 5 ideas, and what if, can we sit down and would you be willing to, take your student group and test some of these ideas? Because, I know having, been where I'm at for 20 years, I never launch a product that a school doesn't say, we want this, we need it, it tastes good. So I think we need to, get the students involved and maybe, bridge that gap between the manufacturer and the schools. And some schools offer that opportunity for manufacturers to go in and do student testing. But I think if we, could do more of that, and we could say, oh, this is a kid-proven NSLP compliant meal.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And Affinity is taking those early steps for the operators. They're Gaia's first broker customer. So we're working together. Alex and I are working together to get the manufacturers to publish to GDSN as the first step. We need accurate, up-to-date data. And then then Gaia will do the recipe building and compliance that the manufacturers can bring to, and brokers can bring to their operators.
That's perfect. That's what's been missing.
Alex is doing it.
This is perfect. Alex, you're so ahead of your time.
We're trying to be forward thinking as an agency.
What took you so long?
I was waiting for the right partner to come along.
Stars aligned. And so that's, just a big push for please publish to the GDSN. So I've seen 2015, 2017 old data where that operators cannot work with that. We need data coming directly from the manufacturer to make sure our compliance is right. And One World Sync is working on content K12. It's will be a pool of K12 data. So we really need manufacturers to publish into that so that every recipient doesn't have to request data from every manufacturer. We need to get some efficiencies with GDSN
Yeah, I've
data
been a big
publishing.
supporter of GDSN from the beginning, back from the days we had the Dairy Council put on a Nourish to Flourish conference actually here in Chicago. I don't even remember how many years ago that was, but there was a little breakout group that started saying this and working on, having a one-stop shop for data that's
Yes,
updated.
one
So
tool.
I'm fortunate that Red Gold embraced that, and we publish data, we update it weekly.
Yep.
We have a system where anytime our specification gets updated, we push to one world sync,
Yes.
and I think we push individually as well. But I mean, it's amazing to think how long we've all gone with needing all this data in a central repository, and we haven't had it. So
I
it's
know.
exciting.
Yeah.
You guys are
Finally
here.
getting there.
Data can make my head spin. Because there's all out there, it's how do you put it all together into a useful format. So I'm excited about the future of where we take K12 partnering with Gaia and really seeing how that is going to evolve.
I can see this. I mean, Alex, you're one of one of our partners, and I can see your people being able to just plug in with the use of the Gaia tool, plug in and be able to walk in to a school district and say, hey, here's some new ideas, and you might be using 3 or 4 of your
we can build a whole
manufacturers.
week's worth of
Exactly.
meals
The
that
whole
are all
breakfast and lunch
component
menu.
based. Yes.
With nutrition facts, with the compliance by grade level. It's
That's
all
exactly
been
what we need.
AI calculated, and
And how far away are we?
it's in
About 2 months or so, we should be ready to rock and roll.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
I'd like to focus on a fairly challenging topic and maybe get some perspective around the group on how we as an industry, specifically on the manufacturing side, how can we help operators that are facing challenges within budget constraints?
Well, Alex, I think, one thing that's really important is manufacturers dedicate resources to the K-12 segment. And they have, staff that work for them, as well as their partner sales agencies that really understand this segment and can do some homework in advance and looking at, what products are you bringing to the operator? Does it fit within their cost guideline? You can take a look at their bid. I mean, we're fortunate to be able to see, everybody's bid and what product has been awarded. What's the cost of that? We can do a lot of homework ahead of time before we ever, step in that door and present a product. I mean, I'm very tough with my team about that. Do your homework, look at the menus. What are, do we have a product that would be a better solution than something that's already on there? And why? Is it, less expensive? Is it more popular? How can a manufacturer make their product fit, on those in those key areas? Popular, cost savings, maybe it has multiple functions. I do think, but in order to do that, you have to have dedicated resources, a dedicated sales agency group, a dedicated people within your sales team. And even, I would go so far to say, you've got to have administrative staff. When you're doing over 500 bids a year and you're having all of these responses, it's just, you can't do it without, a commitment from the top that K-12 is important.
This is such an interesting push-pull dynamic because you look at the millions of meals served every day, and we have so many manufacturers that, quite a few are heavily involved in K-12, but I'm more thinking of the ones that are, looking at venturing into K-12. How can I give them guidance on what's the most important between some of those metrics you just mentioned? Is it finding the right item? Is it price-based? I mean, that's the dynamic that I'm constantly trying to figure out on what's the best option for them.
Yeah, it's a great question. And really it's where a new manufacturer should start is, do you have a product that fits, that meets a need that the students like, that you can deliver at the right price option? If you can't, it's just classic marketing. If you can't deliver on all the P's, then you might better figure out, a different avenue, a different product. Because some people, want to swim upstream and they think they have a great product, maybe in college university, or this is going to be great in K-12. And it might be a great product. It just might not fit the cost, parameters. So, and I always say start with the customers. I've been doing K-12 for 26 years, and I've never created a product where I haven't gone to the customer and said, is this something you want, you need, you can afford, and the kids will like?
So if you're looking into something like your example just now, is there a best practice in terms of how a manufacturer can reach out to a few select districts and ask those simple questions? If I've got an item that I'm formulating right now, I think it would work in K-12. It hits the metrics in terms of nutritional components, so on and so forth. I would like guidance from a director on, okay, what is the ideal price point? Are there limitations? Understanding the budgetary constraints that everybody's facing, how can I best do that? I mean, is there anything that I, need to be very sensitive about when I ask those questions? Or is it pretty much open to anyone's perspective on how you answer the $1 million question on what price is the most ideal?
Well, I think it's another great question, but, I think it's kind of a multi-pronged answer. First of all, you have to, if you're a manufacturer and you don't have any connections to K-12, you need a sales agency like yourself that, you can tap into your key districts. It's important to ask questions across the demographics, across the geography, low free and reduced districts, high free and reduced districts. There's certain products that may actually fit in a, high free and reduced versus, and wouldn't necessarily fit in low free and reduced. So there's all these nuances of the K-12 segment, but I would say the starting place is with a sales agency that understands the segment and has operators across the United States that would maybe, again, a small district, a big district, a high free and reduced, so ask, develop a set of questions about the products and, you use a sales agency like yourself, where you guys have great relationships across the country. And, kind of formally do a focus group of some sort, maybe, and ask these questions. And, you're probably going to get different answers. I mean, from a costing is very important, but I think Megan mentioned it sooner. You can average, so if there's something really good that you want to use that's maybe a little more expensive, if the school's going to get excited about that product, they're going to figure out a way to, serve a lower cost product to offset that.
Especially if it drives participation, something we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
It's a big topic for a lot of our director partners.
Yeah, exactly. And Affinity is already taking steps. They're Gaia's first sales agency user, and they are helping build the catalog of product data to then build compliant recipes, build compliant menus, analyze costs. All these are pre-steps they can do for their operator customer. So I just have to shout out the work that Affinity is doing for their customers.
Shifting to a different topic, Benita, I'm curious to get your perspective on how policy and funding is impacting school lunches today.
Yeah, so it's having a major impact. So we have the updated school nutrition standards that are going to be going into effect in the coming years. There's going to be added sugar restrictions in school meals for the first time as part of that. Operators are going to have to further reduce their sodium levels in school meals. And then at the state level, we have a bunch of things going on. So, for example, as we were talking earlier, we have states that are trying to pass universal free school meal legislation. We also have some states, such as California, who are taking a harder look at other additives in school meals. So California just passed a bill that will require schools to not serve any school lunch products that have, I believe, 6 food dyes in their school meals anymore. And Texas is also looking at a bill that is very similar to that. And then at the federal level, we have a bill that has also been introduced that similarly would take a hard look at additives in school meals. So there's definitely a lot going on in this area.
Yeah, from my perspective, in addition to all the new regulations coming, we also have movement around ingredients of concern in K-12 foods. So California already banned dyes. That comes into play December 2027. No dyes in California food or beverages. Texas has a bill similar to that, New York as well. So there is a cross-country move happening around ingredients. So I would definitely recommend manufacturers check out the ingredient guide for better school food purchasing. It's at ingredientguide.org to see ingredients that K12 are interested in limiting and fully removing, and trying to get ahead on some of these things one at a time, because there is a lot of regulations and changes coming down the line.
Haven't been in this for 26 years, and being a part of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act in 2010, I've watched policy change dramatically over the last, 20 years. It just continues to get more restrictive, makes it a little bit harder on the manufacturers that are in the space to continue to keep up with it. And we're not going in the opposite direction. I also think it's difficult for manufacturers to make products so unique, and then schools not to have the money to be able to buy these products. So I consider a lot of this policy unfunded mandates, and there's a lot of stuff that has to get done, and I hope that somebody in USDA will recognize, as these standards are having to get put into place, that they're going to allow the schools more money to be able to buy these products that these are not products that are currently sold in retail. These are not products currently sold in food service. We spend a lot of R&D time and resources in order to develop them. They're going to probably cost more. I doubt seriously they're going to cost less. So I'm very concerned about the funding aspect of that question for the future. And, schools have got to be given some leeway in order to be able to meet the standards with healthier products that potentially may cost a little bit more.
So talking policy and how it impacts school lunches, we've got proposed and law upcoming regulation changes. I'm curious, from a manufacturer standpoint, what kind of planning are you doing around some of these upcoming regulation changes?
Yeah, great question, Alex. We've actually been looking at this for years, particularly since the sodium level has been kicked down the road probably for 10 years now. So we've been preparing, knowing there was going to be a sodium decrease. The added sugar thing got sort of thrown in and kind of got all blindsided with that one. But the needle is constantly moving. So we've been looking at how much more can we reduce sodium. We did it initially back in 2010, but how much more can you go? We can't go further on some products. But the deeper concern is we've got a new administration coming in. What if that rule changes yet again? How does a manufacturer know that is the final mark?
We have 10% reduction in sodium across the board coming up school year 27-28. We have a 15% reduction in sodium coming up school year 28, which is, it's a couple of years away. But, from a manufacturer standpoint, it takes anywhere from 18 to 24 months to create and get USDA approval on those items. So essentially, they need to start creating those items today. So what do we do? That's the big what if is, will this new administration pull back on some of the proposed regulations, or will they let everything ride out as is? So talking about regulations, one of the key components is Buy American. There's going to be a new percentage of what we can source outside of American-made products. Curious to get your perspective, Jodi, on how that might impact Red Gold or other industry partners.
Yes, well, quite honestly, I'm a huge proponent of the Buy American legislation because I see it as a roadmap to maybe simplify some of these other processes that schools are involved in now that were created, decades ago. So to ensure that schools bought American products, which was, as we all know, the USDA Foods Commodity Program was the original program that ensured schools would get X amount of product that was American made and grown. So as schools are pushed to purchase, much higher percentage of their products that are American, we all know there's a list of a published list of products that are not produced in America. You want kids to eat pineapples and mandarin oranges or whatever those things are, bananas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so of course there's that list. But I do think it's a way for further simplification that is greatly needed in the program. I mean, if schools were able to ensure 95% of their purchases are American, why would we need a commodity program? All products, if you could verify that you were American grown, could be eligible. It could open up the door for a lot more manufacturers, a lot more competition, but they don't have to necessarily play the commodity game.
Last question and more of an open discussion. I'm interested to get your thoughts on what are your hopes and wishes and dreams for K12 food service moving forward in the future?
I wish more people outside of K12 food service recognize the awesome work that school nutrition operators do day in and day out. And I wish, again, it was just more on people's minds, just the important role that school nutrition plays. Because I think once you have that, then everything else follows. Then people realize, okay, every child should have a free lunch and breakfast every day at school. Okay, we should be making this easier for our school nutrition operators to serve kids, not harder. So that would be, if I could have a wand and wave it and make something happen in school nutrition, that would be my wish for sure.
And my PSA is let's all work together towards improving the perception of K12, lifting up operators, manufacturers, all aspects that are working really hard to get good quality meals on trays for students. And also let's use more technology and efficiency and bring world-class tools that K12 deserves to make really challenging jobs a little bit easier.
When I would say ditto to all of that, and maybe just add one other element that has always concerned me. We all spend so much time trying to bring this most delicious, nutritious food to kids, but we're not giving them the time to eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think if that's got to be on the forefront, and giving kids time to eat, to enjoy their food. Part of a big reason probably why food ends up in the trash can is because they don't have time to eat. So free meals with plenty of time to eat. That's my vision.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a great comment, Jodi. So, and really mine, it was, the child nutrition program in general is the only program in schools that's not federally funded across the board. We have a huge issue with that, where we are having to self-fund. There are reimbursements here and there, but it is not universally paid for. And that is an area that I think the government really needs to look at, because we're having to navigate all of these different assets and pieces to making sure that we at least are still feeding the kids, meanwhile taking into account all the budgetary constraints. I would love to see free universal meals across the board. And to your point, that's such a great one on the time allotted to where these kids actually have enough time to eat and then go and exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Yes, love that.
You've been listening to Bridge to Local with Affinity Group, where manufacturers and local operators connect for success. Stay tuned for more insights and visit AffinitySales.com to see how we can help drive your business forward. See you next time.